I believe it was a few months ago, there was talk about Steam bringing a family mode to light, and there was a beta going on. And I was talking about how I was looking towards getting some games for my kids. And one of my audience members kind of tuned me back and said, "Hey, man, go check out the Steam family beta and see exactly what it's like. It really is, super cool." So, shout out to you, Mr. BDB. I jumped in and I started to, set this whole thing up, set it up for my two oldest kids. And there's so many games that I have on my library that I bought to just test out, maybe do benchmarks that I'm not gonna play, like Ratchet and Clank. That's not my kind of game, but boy, the kids love that game. And shout out to the Steam, folk who finally brought a legit way that's actually streamlined that does the job for you to be able to share your games with your family members. This is the Steam, family members, setup, and I think it's probably the most OP thing right now that you have on PC. Now, I say most OP because you have a higher, access of video games that you can get your hands on that can be shared. However, if you were to say your game was a DRM free copy, like you can get, then you can act accordingly in terms of who plays the game and so on and so forth. However, this is really nice and, in my opinion, very much more controlled, especially from the parents' perspective. Now, some of you who may be listening to this video, you're probably dads, you're probably parents, and so this is probably where things kind of dial in, for you. Now, those of you who, maybe much younger, this is one of those conversations where you might be like, huh? Well, yeah, gamers, especially the millennial class, are grown. What's even crazy is some millennials are about to start to touch that grandparent age. And so the way they handle their gaming is, super different. And what's even crazy is, people are actually pointing out to what that Ubisoft executive said, where he said, gamers need to get comfortable with now owning your games. While, on the Steam side, they're letting, families actually join, different, you can create a family and you can have members of your family join. I think there's like a location restriction to it. But to me, this is probably like one of the biggest gems out there because, again, something that, I would love to always, reward my kids with is now, in an easier place and an easier access. And don't get it wrong, man. In this house, in the video game, house, the VG house, video games are kind of a part of the way we do things. We know the kids enjoy them, but there are specific days to play games and there are specific game rewards that kids get. I think my oldest has been learning. I've never said this on a video before. My oldest has been learning Unreal Engine, and so I wanted to do like a small mock-up of a project. I got a tutorial, and I told him, I said, "Hey, man, I need you to help me run this thing," and he was like, "Sure." And he knocked it out for me, and his gift was Minecraft and a Nintendo Switch controller. I wish I could. I should have just bought them the PC version, but they have a Switch, and I was thinking, well, you know what? That Switch needs to disappear. We need to go full in on PC. Don't worry, I don't want to basically disappear their Switch first. I want to, live by example. So if I sell my Xbox and my PlayStation 5, then I'm gonna sell their Switch. But if I'm gonna keep those for now, then I might as well keep their Switch, for them. But they're full on PC kids. These kids are not gonna, they're not gonna touch a console anymore. They don't need to, in my opinion, anyways. But I think this particular thing really does show exactly what we've been seeing lately in terms of the conversation of how video games have become a nightmare. The executives and a lot of these folk who are in the reins in terms of handling this stuff, they somewhat have just kind of moved away from serving the customer. In their minds, everything that they want to do these days is all about serving themselves, when in reality, because of the way gaming is, a service mindset, a service framework is exactly where, things need to go. And everybody understands that one thing about gamers is seeing the way a lot of technology in terms of hardware has changed. People like to have access to their games and be able to, in a sense, have more flexibility with their games. I think this actually, increases sales. Now, another thing too that this, and I'm still learning about the entire system, in terms of, how you can actually share games. And like, say if a game like Gotham Knights, they're not old enough to play Gotham Knights, and say, okay, maybe they wanted to play Gotham Knights and they wanted to play with me, or I fast forward, like maybe the entire game, I'll download a save file for them on their computers, and then we can go farm Heroic Assault, which we're just going to be fighting enemy NPCs. There's just some themes in Gotham Knights I don't intend for them to actually deal with, because already when they saw the game, they started asking questions like, "Hey, Dad, why are you hitting a girl?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, ask the developers and the designers at Warner Brothers Montreal who thought, it was wise to maybe make all these ladies, bosses while you're supposed to be teaching your sons not to hit girls. So now you got to explain that it's a fictional world and all this stuff, and different story. However, the way the games work in terms of what games can be played simultaneously, because you can also play games simultaneously that are in the same library. However, I don't know how co-op games would have to do it. Maybe you have to buy a second copy and all of that stuff. But it's largely dependent on the video game developers as to how that simultaneous thing will work with co-op. However, if the game is already available and you share it with your family members, I think they can play it at the same time in the case of most single player games. That's yet to be fully tested, but I wanted to go ahead and point that out as a huge benefit to anyone who may be playing on this platform. Because again, as a PC player, one of the things a lot of folk do, even folk that are on PC, is that they'll get their kids like a small console, like the Series, S, or they'll get them a Nintendo Switch. And, now I think what's happening is if you're more savvy with your PC hardware and stuff, you can get your kid a very small, underpowered PC that can play all their Lego games, and even Ratchet and Clank will play on an underpowered PC. That's another thing a lot of people don't really know. They think, you got to play Ratchet and Clank at like 1 zillion FPS. But no, it'll play on underpowered PC. It'll play on a HDD. They've shown it, like, the cheap hard drives. And you can pretty much buy one copy of these games, and you can pretty much have your children or your family members engage and play them. I thought I'd point out this particular thing because game sharing is one really interesting thing on consoles. I know about game sharing. I mean, I like I said, guys, I'm a PlayStation player. Some of you, maybe you think I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you think I'm I live like under a rock or something, but I think Steam's actually does rock because you don't have to do that one step that you have to do on the PlayStation side in order for you to be able to get games shared. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about this feature? If you've used it before, give me your pros and cons. If you've never heard of it, try it and check it out. It's left the beta, actually. It's now full blown in terms of its release. Thanks so much again. Peace out.